London has consistently ranked in the top 10 most expensive cities to live in the world the past few years, and after living here for over 4 months now, I can definitely say that's true. I knew when I moved here that it would be expensive, but you don't really realize how expensive it'll be on a day-to-day basis until you live here. So I'm gonna talk about all the main categories of expenses nearly everybody will have: rent, bills, transportation, and food. I'll give you the total of all of that together and then divide it by 2 at the end to show you how much each of us pay, me and Nick living here, so you can plan accordingly whether you plan on living alone or with a partner or a friend. So let's first talk about your biggest expense, which is going to be rent. And let me tell you something, it is expensive in 2023 due to the housing crisis. And I read a few articles recently that say 2024 prices are supposed to continue to climb, making the average rent price in London a whopping £2,700. So do be prepared for that. I started apartment hunting with my budget set at a max £1,600, which quickly was increased to £1,700, and then we landed on our place at £1,750, which I'd say is pretty standard for a 1-bedroom here in London. I saw a ton of 1-bedrooms from about the £1,700 to £1,900 range in Zone 2. We are lucky that we do have an office too, which would normally increase the price quite a bit. So like I said, for our 450 square foot 1-bedroom apartment with an office in West London, Zone 2, we pay a total of £1,750 per month for rent. So if you want to check out what that $1,750 actually gets you, take a look at this apartment tour. Now let's get into the bills. First, I want to talk about our most expensive bill and something that Americans are not used to paying, so they might be confused if they move over here. It's called council tax. So this is a tax that is used to pay for services like schools, trash and recycling collections, libraries, police, fire, so much more for your individual borough that you live in. So that means depending on which borough you live in will depend on how much council tax you pay. The boroughs are categorized by bands. Band A pays the least amount in council tax at $13.92 per year, and it goes all the way to Band H, which pays a whopping £4,176 per year. So luckily we are in Band B, which is £1,624 per year, divided by the 12 months gives us a monthly payment of £135. Then we have electricity, which there are 2 main ways to pay. The first way is the most common, I believe. The electricity company predicts what they think you're going to spend this year and then divides it by 12. So it's the exact same amount, the exact same payment every month. I believe technically if you use less, they're supposed to refund you or give you a credit on your account, or if you use more, you're supposed to get charged more. Maybe that's just like the next month or something. But also I'm not really sure how you would know unless you are personally tracking your meter every month on your own and calculating it. So again, not really sure. Or the second way, which is what we do, is prepaid electricity. So we have this little stick, we take it to the post office with cash, put electricity on it, then come back and plug the stick into our box and it gives us electricity. So we use roughly £40 a month of electricity. Next we have gas, which again can be paid in the 2 ways that I described. I tried calling to get switched to the prepaid card thing because I feel like it's so much easier and I have so much more control over everything. And I do think it's cheaper because I don't want to pay based on what they think I'm going to use. I want to just pay for what I use, but they wouldn't let me switch. So I was able to just get the monthly bill statements each month, so I just pay for what I use for instead of the estimated monthly cost that they think I'm going to use. So on average, it's been about £20 to £30 per month for gas. Although I haven't been here for the winter yet, which I heard is quite pricey because you have the heater on all the time. Although I will say this is something to heavily consider when finding your apartment. Ours is a brand new remodeled place with double pane windows and really thick insulation. So even though it's been in the 40s or about 5 to 10 degrees Celsius so far in November, we haven't turned on the heater once because it retains heat really well. So if you don't have double pane windows or it's a really old building, you could be paying a lot more since it doesn't retain the heat well. Next up, we have water, which is actually only billed every 6 months, so I haven't even paid this one yet. I have tried to figure this one out just for the sake of the video and to mentally prepare myself, and everything I've found says for my borough it's roughly going to be £30 a month, which honestly I was shocked by. I think that's crazy expensive for water, especially if they're just gonna bill me in 6 months for 6 months worth. That's a really big bill. So I'm really hoping that's not that much, but I guess I'll find out in a few months. So we'll keep it at 30 pounds a month for our grand total, just so you can be prepared for the worst case scenario. Now we'll talk about Wi-Fi. We pay 21 pounds a month for 40 to 60 Mbps download and 15 uploads. So by US standards, it may seem slow based on the numbers, but we haven't had any problems with it while both of us work from home, stream TV, and do all of that. Now we have my phone plan. So I have an iPhone 14, which doesn't have a physical SIM card slot, so it was actually really hard to find an eSIM. I was kind of shocked since the iPhone 14 had been out for nearly a year when I was looking for one, and now even the iPhone 15 is out. So I ended up going with Leica Mobile, which I'd say is pretty similar to like Cricket Wireless back home in the States. Definitely not one of the main providers, which are O2, Vodafone, and 3. The 3 main providers I just listed only have eSIMs if you sign a 1-year contract, which I really didn't want to do. And at the time I was looking for one, I didn't have a bank account, and you needed a bank account to set it all up. So it just wasn't working out. So I went with Leica, which is 5 pounds a month, no contract, which includes unlimited texts and calls and 20 gigabytes of data a month, which is crazy to me. I don't think you could find anything close to that price in the States, especially as an individual. It's usually always cheaper if you have a group of 4 on a plan back in the States. Now let's move on to the transportation category. If you live in London, you are most likely going to be using public transportation. You use contactless pay like Apple Pay or even just a tap to pay card. You don't need to buy an Oyster card or print out a ticket at the station. For the tube, which is what we would call the metro or the subway back home in the States, you tap your payment at the tills when you enter, and then you tap when you exit, and you'll be charged based on how many zones you cross, which you can see the zone map on the screen now. So if you cross one zone, the standard fare for off-peak is £1.90, or during peak is £2.10. Peak times are the Monday through Friday typical commuter times, so 6:30 to 9:30 in the morning or 4 to 7 p.m. If you cross 2 zones, the off-peak is £3 and the peak is £3.70, and of course it continues to increase from there. You can check how much it'll cost you on the TEFL website in advance. TEFL, I'm saying TEFL. I'm used to that as an English teacher, teaching English as a foreign language, but no, I mean TFL, no E, Transport for London. So anyways, check on the TFL website, otherwise you won't know until you check your credit card statement later. For the bus, you tap your payment when you hop on the bus, and it's a flat fee of £1.75 no matter how many zones you cross. And for the buses, it's actually really nice because you have a 1-hour time limit. What I mean by that is when you get on the first bus that you're gonna go on for the day and you tap it, you get charged $1.75 like I just said, but then you have an hour from the time that you tap that. You can use as many buses as you want. You'll still tap when you get on to a second or third or fourth bus, but it won't charge you that second, third, or fourth time as long as it's within that hour. So basically, you have £1.75 to use unlimited buses, unlimited zones. So how much will you spend monthly? It's hard to say because it depends on how many days you have to commute to work, how many zones you have to cross, and then on the weekends, what are you doing? How many zones are you crossing to do fun activities? So for me, I commute 2 days a week, crossing 1 zone on the tube during peak times. So it's £4.20 a day. Plus on the weekend, I usually head into zone 1 for fun activities, which again is only 1 zone and it's off peak. So for the month, my average is about £50 on public transportation, which I know is quite cheap because I have even students that I work with at the university, they will pay for a monthly transport pass because they have to come to class every day and then they go do fun things on the weekend. And even with their discounted Oyster card, which gets them 30% off, it's about £120 a month. So again, totally depends on how much you have to travel, how far you're traveling, all those types of things. But if you're only traveling 1 zone away a few days a week like I do, it's about £50. So like I just said, if you are a student, you can apply for a student Oyster card, which will give you 30% of all weekly and monthly transportation passes. So it will definitely be worth it, help you save a bit of money. It won't save you any money on just tapping. You do have to buy the full passes. And now for the last category, food. Again, this one is hard because it depends on your lifestyle. We cook our own food literally every day. The only time we really go out to eat is if we have weekend plans with friends. We normally never go out to eat just the 2 of us because we are desperately trying to replenish our savings accounts that we drained by moving here. So with that in mind, we spend on average about 105 pounds a week on groceries, and I'd say an average meal if you were to go out to eat would be about 15 pounds per person. Of course, it can be more expensive than that or cheaper if you just grab a kebab or something, not an actual, sit down and have a meal. But I would say the average meal price would be about 15 pounds per person. So if you get groceries and let's say go out to eat twice a week, that's a monthly total of 660 pounds for 2 people. I know a lot of other cost of living videos will add in subscriptions like Netflix, Amazon Prime, all those other things, plus a budget for partying or doing fun things on the weekend, but each person is so different and their lifestyles are so different. So I'd rather just give you this base monthly cost and then you can add from there, based on your lifestyle, all the subscriptions you have, how much you need for partying or doing fun things, and weekend activities, so that can be on you. One thing I don't have, but I do know that a lot of people want or are gonna have if they move here, is a gym membership, which at Pure Gym, a super popular chain gym here, for the cheapest monthly plan, it's 28 pounds. So I just wanted you to have that price in your head so you can add it to the total cost if that's something you know for sure you're gonna have when you move here to London. So let's total up everything for the grand total. We have 1,750 pounds for rent, 135 pounds for council tax, 40 pounds on electricity, 20 pounds on gas, 30 pounds I'm guessing for water, but I haven't paid that yet, so I guess we will see, 21 pounds for Wi-Fi, 5 pounds for my phone, or 10 for 2 people, 50 pounds for transportation, or 100 for 2 people, and 660 pounds for food, which brings the grand total for 2 people to 2,766 pounds, which is roughly $3,368 US dollars. Divide that by 2, and the individual cost of living in London in 2023, based on my bills and lifestyle, is about 1,383 pounds, which is about 1,684 US dollars. So as you can tell, having a partner to split everything with is an absolute must in London. I could 100% not afford to live here without Nick, but either way, it's still a very expensive city. So if you are planning on moving here, you really do need to have some savings or a high-paying job to live comfortably. Now let's compare this with the cost of living in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, where you can live like an absolute king or queen on just a few $100s a month.